You have data everywhere, but is it working together? Meet Curator, the automotive industry's first unified intelligence engine. Curator unifies data from all corners of your dealership to transform marketing, sales, and customer interactions. See it today at gibagoo.com.
Welcome to Daily Drive for Tuesday, August 26, 2025. I'm Kellen Walker in Las Vegas. Today on the show, Hyundai adds $5 billion in U.S. investments. California dealers sue Sony Honda over direct Afeela sales, and Stellantis shelves its Level 3 self-driving program. Plus, we're only a couple weeks away from Automotive News Congress in Detroit. We'll hear from three of the scheduled speakers about everything from Chinese competition to the state of the retail market.
You think about COVID and the supply shortage and higher interest rates and what's been going on with the Fed. It's just been probably very daunting, or it is very daunting, I'd say, for the American consumer.
Let's run through all the news you need to know to keep up in the auto industry. Hyundai Motor Group is adding $5 billion of investments to its U.S. operations. The company says the infusion will substantially increase its production capacity for Hyundai, Genesis, and Kia vehicles, while also creating a robot manufacturing hub. The new U.S. commitment comes on top of some $21 billion announced in March, bringing the South Korean car makers' total to $26 billion from 2025 to 2028. The California New Car Dealers Association is suing Honda and Sony, accusing the companies of violating state franchise laws. The complaint alleges that the companies are bypassing Honda and Acura dealerships to sell its Afeela electric vehicle directly to consumers. The 50-50 joint venture between the Japanese automotive and electronics giants began taking deposits from California residents for the Afeela One. That's the first EV from the brand. It's expected to arrive in early 2026. And Stellantis has shelved its first Level 3 advanced driver assistance program. That's according to three people familiar with the matter who spoke with Reuters. They say the automaker made the decision because of high cost, tech challenges, and concerns about consumer appetite. As recently as February, Stellantis said its in-house system, which is part of the Auto Drive program, was ready for deployment and a key pillar of its strategy. The automaker confirmed to Reuters that it never launched the Level 3 software, but it stopped short of saying that the program was canceled. And those are today's headlines. You can find more details on all those stories at autonews.com. Now joining me to talk about two of our top stories of the day is our own Carly Schaffner, who covers Hyundai, Honda, and other automakers for us at Automotive News. Carly, welcome back to Daily Drive.
Thanks, Kels. Good to be back.
So let's start with this $5 billion additional investment in U.S. manufacturing by Hyundai Group. Is this investment surprising given the scale of it?
So earlier this year, Hyundai announced that they would be investing an additional $21 billion into U.S. to expand their production footprint. And that's in addition to the $12.56 billion they've already put into upgrading various factories that they already have going to upgrade them for electrification, and the new meta plant outside Savannah, Georgia, which is now operating, and that will build EVs and hybrids for all three of the Hyundai Motor Group brands, which is Hyundai, Genesis, and Kia. So the expanded investment is not a surprise, but it gives us a little bit more clarity on what the $21 billion really is all about, because we know that they're going to put $6 billion into a steel mill in Louisiana, and we know that they were going to expand the production footprint, which actually included more capacity from the meta plant, which was initially planned from the start. We just didn't know the timing on it. But part of what they were earmarking was for studying advanced technology opportunities and infrastructure development, like charging opportunities. And one of the companies that they were planning to partner with was Boston Dynamics. So now we know that this $5 billion, that's going to go towards robotics with Boston Dynamics. So they're going to make a factory or build a factory that can make 30,000 robots a year, so annual capacity. And was reported that they'll focus on the Atlas, the Spot, and the Stretch, which are the main Boston Dynamic products. And then another highlight of it is that it'll create another 25,000 jobs.
So now moving to another company that you cover for us at Automotive News, what case are dealers in California making that Sony Honda Mobility's plan to sell a fleet of vehicles directly to consumers violates franchise laws?
Yeah, so the California New Car Dealer Association, they had been investigating whether or not Afila's plan, so Afila is the brand that was created between this 50-50 joint venture between Sony and Honda called Sony Honda Mobility. So they created the Afila brand. Their first vehicle slated to come out mid next year is the Afila 1. So they initially said that they were going to bypass dealers altogether and sell direct to consumers, kind of a la Tesla. And right away, California, the dealer association started to investigate whether or not that would violate the state franchise laws that says that any affiliate of a car manufacturer needs to use their established dealer network to sell vehicles, that they cannot go direct to consumers. And because the Afila 1 is slated to be built at Honda's East Liberty factory, they are arguing that that is a connection that makes them a direct affiliate. So the lawsuit alleges in that way that they're violating the state franchise laws, and they're asking them to stop. And also, this is the kind of third step in this, or third chapter of the story, if you will, because they sent them a cease and desist asking them to stop. They were investigating them, so it was an ongoing investigation. So clearly their investigation found that they were working against what they thought was outside of the lines of the law that's established. And so now they've filed the lawsuit.
Wow, interesting stuff. Carly Schaffner covers Hyundai, Honda, and other automakers for us at Automotive News. Carly, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Cal.
Coming up, 3 of our upcoming speakers for Automotive News Congress talk about the state of the industry and competition from China. That's next on Daily Drive.
Daily Drive listeners like you have access to the lowest price for Automotive News Congress 2025 on September 11th.
The event is where the industry's biggest players tackle its toughest challenges. Congress attendees don't just follow the industry, they lead it.
This year's featured speakers include Hyundai Motor Group Executive Chair Yu-Sung Chung, Asbury Automotive CEO David Holt, and General Motors CEO Mary Barra.
We are investing in America. We're creating jobs. That's creating IP in this country. And I think, the United States needs to lead in key technologies.
Join us to gain the insights and connections needed to steer your business through massive change.
To get the lowest price for the event, go to autonews.com/events, select Auto News Congress, and type in the discount code DAILYDRIVE. That's one word, all caps, Daily Drive. And we'll see you on September 11th in Detroit.
Your dealership has no shortage of customer information. But when that data is conflicting, messy, and spread across a multitude of platforms, it's impossible to activate properly. As the automotive industry's first unified intelligence engine, Curator enriches and unifies your customer data across platforms, like your CRM, your DMS, your website, and even your marketing efforts. It then injects that information back into your most vital systems to provide a single view of each customer and equip your sales team with the information they need to close a deal. When one of the largest volume Subaru dealers in the country wanted to tap into its data goldmine, they turned to Curator. In just 4 months, Huberger Subaru experienced a 55% higher closing ratio and a return of 15 times their investment. Want to see it for yourself? Check out the case study at gubagoo.com/curator. That's GUBAGOO.com/curator.
Welcome back to Daily Drive. I'm Kellen Walker. As you heard during the break, Automotive News Congress 2025 is coming up fast. On September 11th, auto industry leaders will gather in Detroit to talk about the biggest issues facing automakers, suppliers, and dealers. Last week, we previewed some of those topics on a live stream with 3 experts who are scheduled to speak at Congress. Jennifer Safavian is CEO of Autos Drive America. Michael Dunn is CEO of Dunn Insights, and Jessica Caldwell is Assistant Vice President of Insights at Edmunds. They spoke with our own Hannah Lutz and Lindsay Van Hully during the latest Congress Conversations live stream. Here's a piece of the conversation.
Michael, I want to ask you specifically about China. We understand that the two countries have agreed to extend the deadline by 90 days. What should we expect, by September when we have our live Congress event in Detroit? Can you break down kind of the latest on what's happening with tariffs in China right now?
All right, big picture, the United States has basically put up this giant billboard and said, Chinese cars not welcome here. I mean, currently the tariff rates on imports from China range from 125% all the way up to 147%. And when I talk to Chinese automakers, they say, we get it. We're not welcome in the United States, at least not exporting from China. But China, meanwhile, has trained its sights on virtually every other market in the world. So they have massive overcapacity at home, price wars at home. No one's making money. So they're shipping this year on track to ship more than 6 million cars to over 100 countries worldwide. Australia, UK up to 10% market share there. EU as a whole over 5% overnight. So we're seeing the tsunami of Chinese cars flooding into markets everywhere except the United States. And one wonders, how long can the US hold that fortress, hold off the Chinese? That's the question.
How are the tariffs in China affecting, the rest of the global auto industry now? And, how might they in the event that a trade deal ultimately is reached?
If we see a trade deal, and who knows what shape that's going to take, but potentially I look for, between the United States and China, not a reduction of the tariffs on imports from China, but rather some deal where the Chinese agree to invest in manufacturing here in the United States, potentially in a joint venture, just as China told foreign automakers when they went into the Chinese market, you want access to the market, you need to invest in manufacture here. Look for the U.S. to borrow from that playbook, keep tariffs high, but invite the Chinese potentially to invest here in the U.S.
So we know, that China has been very strong in vehicle technology, and they're a big competitor to the U.S. They're far ahead of the U.S. when it comes to vehicle technology and EVs and software-defined vehicles. Michael, what has set China apart there, and what should we expect moving forward in the next few years?
They're really emerging as a dominant force along two dimensions. The first is they utterly control batteries and battery supply chains. Just to give you a couple numbers, China produces 70% of the world's batteries for electric cars, and they control 90% of the refining of the minerals that go into the manufacture of the battery cells. So those are some serious choke points. The world is dependent on China for batteries. But a second and less well-known advantage they have is in technology, as you say. So in the last 5 years, we've seen the emergence of companies like XPeng, NIO, most recently Xiaomi. These are billionaire founders who made their money in technology and have now entered the auto industry and say, oh yeah, we know all about over-the-air updates and software. We know how to start from scratch with a software-defined vehicle. They move very quickly with advanced technology, and this is what's keeping people up at night in Wolfsburg and Nagoya and Detroit. These new Chinese automakers are really advanced when it comes to technology and batteries.
Yeah, I know we covered that a lot for rare earths and tariffs and limited export. So a lot of reliance on China for sure. Jessica, from your perspective, are the consumers noticing that the Chinese vehicles are high tech, and are they wanting that, or are they not really in that sphere yet to notice what's happening abroad?
I don't think they're noticing quite yet, but I mean, I will say I did a lot of traveling this summer, and it's particularly in Australia, BYDs are everywhere. You would think that is one of the most popular car brands in the world. If you look around, the Sharks are like a very hot ticket there. So it is weird to see other countries in which the Chinese manufacturers have come, so hard in, and yet we see none of those vehicles here, obviously. And I think from the consumer standpoint, I think maybe they're interested. You have to be someone that probably is more into cars. I'd say the average consumer, a lot of times people just buy the same exact car that they've already owned. So it's not necessarily, a thing where they're looking out to see what is. But I think there's curiosity. We know that there's affordability issues here in the United States. They hear Chinese vehicles are cheaper. how do we get a vehicle with better technology that I can actually afford now? So I think that there is probably some interest. I wouldn't say it's overwhelming because there's so much happening, I would say, in the auto space in this market to think about even as a consumer right now.
Jessica, how is trade uncertainty overall impacting U.S. vehicle sales so far, through the first half and into the third quarter?
Well, I mean, it's been really interesting. I think when the news of the tariffs were coming out, I think we all probably remember those like splashy headlines of people predicting car prices by the summer will be up 10,000. I think I saw one for 25,000. I was like, that's an impact. So, if you're just an average person out there thinking, oh, I need a car in the next few months, I would probably panic. So we did see sales higher during that time period where people thought, oh, it's now or never. I have to go buy a car. I may not want to, but I'm just going to go do it. And then we saw sort of a pullback afterwards because it felt like the demand was pulled ahead. And then last month we saw sales be pretty good because I think people are not seeing those price increases necessarily materialize that they thought that they were. They thought they'd be priced out of the market. They're not necessarily seeing that. So it is interesting. I think the X factor as we move towards the latter half of 2025 is will we start to see more price increases. We know with the 2026 model year kind of on the horizon, there's not too much yet in the market. Like, is that an opportunity for automakers to start to increase prices a bit to recoup some of their own losses? We have seen destination charges go up quite significantly. I want to say the average is like $1,500 now, which is shocking to me because I feel like destination should be $700. Not the case. That could be another area in which we see kind of automakers shift some of the cost onto the consumer. So it's just these little things, I think, as we think about the rest of the year that could change the dynamics for the consumer. And obviously, the more we talk about it and they think that there's that perception that they're priced out, that doesn't help either.
You've talked about affordability a couple of times, and I know that's been something that's been sort of challenging for a while now, and all the factors you've mentioned, coming into play there. I'm wondering, for you and for the other panelists as well, just kind of what it all means for the consumer going forward, especially through the end of this year.
I mean, it's tough. I think we all recognize the high prices in every portion of our lives. And for a lot of people, cars are a big purchase, maybe the biggest purchase that they are going to make. And the other thing is people need them. If you need a car, there's not really too many great substitutes out there. And the almost like the drug in this country has been low interest rates, longer loan terms. But when you have a new car interest rate that's on an average of over 7%, that's tough. Used vehicles, it's almost 11%. So anyone that are buying these vehicles that are generally priced well over $30,000, these are significant. These are significant payments. So it continues to be definitely a big issue. We see people obviously paying higher interest rates, but also probably a lot of people we don't even see them in the market because they either didn't qualify for a loan or just can't, or just sort of waiting for that moment. Earlier this year we saw older vehicles being traded in, and that usually signifies that pent-up demand is being released. So people that have kind of sat out thinking this market's crazy, I'm going to wait, and now all of a sudden either cannot wait or think that it now is perhaps a better time. We started to see some of that, but now there may be pullback just because now this idea of tariffs and higher costs and all of those things may be scaring those people out of the market. But when you just think about COVID and the supply shortage and higher interest rates and all, what's been going on with the Fed, it's just been probably very daunting, or it is very daunting, I'd say, for the American consumer.
Jennifer Safavian is CEO of Autos Drive America. Michael Dunn is CEO of Dunn Insights. And Jessica Caldwell is Assistant Vice President of Insights at Edmunds. They spoke with our own Hannah Lutz and Lindsay Van Hully during the latest Congress Conversations live stream. You can find the full conversation on Automotive News LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube pages. That's Daily Drive for today. I'm Kellen Walker. Thanks to Automotive News executive producer Jake Neer, as well as our own Carly Schaffner and Hans Greimel for their reporting for today's podcast. You can get the latest news on retail, manufacturing investments, and everything happening in the auto industry at autonews.com. Come back tomorrow for a conversation with U.S. Senate candidate Abdul El Sayed.
To build the future of automotive, we are going to pivot and invest in our industry in some really, really smart and targeted ways. And I think we are going to do exactly what it is that China has done, which is we are going to pump financial support into the industry, and we are going to push the best automobiles in the world out onto the global market.
We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think of the show and the topics we covered today. Send us an email at dailydrive@autonews.com or leave us a voicemail at 313-444-2774. And if you enjoy the podcast, remember to like, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.